locked in with the Quinn ban. I'm very surprised to see a Quinn ban, but hey, I suppose maybe Breeds have played it solo queue.
I mean, if anyone's gonna pop off and play a good top lane game, it's gonna be Breathe, and RNG need this guy to be in a really good spot. It feels like Renekton has just kind of taken over the LPL meta in the last week or so. The recent buffs have kind of just pushed him over the edge back into pro play. Has left over some fairly powerful champions though. Varus, one of the lane dominant champions. It's not really, what LWX and Ming have succeeded with, but on paper it doesn't show your hand too much in the draft. It gives you a winning lane. You can change between the poke and the on hit as well. The Ahri for Tanyuan as well. It's about the most blind pickable mid lane that you can get.
I feel like this is also just a very strong duo. You don't often see AD carry mid duos, but Varus Ahri, the CC chain that you can get between Varus' ult and Ahri's charm is incredibly potent. So excited to see what Tanyuan and LWX can do with that kit. Senna locked in though for FPX. Is that a Vayne hover to say, we reckon you're playing Vayne top, Breathe? They've obviously got some idea about Breathe really wanting to play an AD carry in the top lane against Renekton.
Put it this way, right? If the LPL has been playing Renekton first pick meta for the last week or so, surely some teams out there have said, you've got to do something with that. The Ornn locked alongside the Senna you have to imagine now as well. Strong tank frontline already locked in from FPX.
I love the Senna Ornn. It's one of my favorite Senna combos. I think he brings so much value.
Is it
compared
because
to a lot
you
of the
press
picks.
the R button and it looks fun? Is that it, Joe?
It starts fights, which I'm all aboard for. But also, I think Ornn is one of the best weak side top laners in the game, right? And you can essentially do weak side top lane in the bot lane when you've got the Senna, right? So Senna can roam around and be helping out Milky Way, who, let's be honest, is the main character of this team. It makes so much sense to have a Senna there, being able to roam up and help.
Also, I think particularly against, you already said about the pick combo from Varus and Ahri. Of course, Kara is also a great Ahri too, so it's a takeaway there for the side from RNG. So you're looking at this duo now and you're saying, well, okay, let's just press W on Ornn and go unstoppable. Let's not fall prey to that pick potential, especially with the Renekton as well. I actually feel like Varus is very good in center a lot of the time, because you're definitely going for the on-hit Varus now, because you have to get through a lot of beef in the front line. And Varus tends to be very good at doing that and punishing these tanks early in the bot lane. But something like that Ornn, because he can kind of get in and out with his E and that W as well, making him unstoppable, makes him a little easier to play in terms of tanks against that Varus. And it feels like now we're looking for, again, the man in the jungle, Milky Way. What can he pick up to really be another carry in that jungle to support this front line and then the backline artillery of Senna?
So Aurelion Soulbound as well. We've certainly got some niche bans coming on through. See, we have seen a couple of games of the Aurelion Soul. Care has been one to bring it to the table. Didn't necessarily expect it to be banned today, but there we go. I suppose it's more scaling, and you've already got Senna on. That's a lot of scaling on the side of FPX. And maybe FPX realizing that they need to have that prowess late game as well as in the early game. But the K'Sante blind pick locked in the end. We'll see what FPX are going to go for in their mid lane and jungle.
After all this talk of how do you deal with the Renekton, is it going to be a Quinn? Is it going to be a Vayne? No! No, it's K'Sante. We're back to the same matchup again. It feels like we've seen so much of this champion. Thought the last nerfs would do away with him, but it's not the case. Last lock-ins are Xin Zhao and Karma. So it is going to be Dogsam really putting out most of the damage for FPX with Milky Way, at least shielded up by the Karma and then killed by the Senna as well. It can help you go aggressive. RNG, they're going to have a really tough time cutting through this aggressive frontline though from FPX. They have so many ways to just keep jumping at you.
That's like FPX want a really long fight as well. They don't necessarily have that much damage. Obviously, Karma does do quite a bit. Senna will do a bit, but not as much as you'd typically expect from mid and bot lane. But the Xin Zhao there with the Renekton there should be enough. A much more aggressive composition from RNG with the Wukong now locked in as well. It feels like not only a really good pick composition, but honestly, this RNG comp can team fight too.
Particularly with so Wukong Rakan is a very underrated duo. I can't remember who was talking about this. So one of the LEC pros that was talking about how Wukong is really broken in a lot of ways that you don't expect when you don't get the actual in-game spectator. If you are sat there with the Rakan, you could then shield to the clone, shield to then the real Wukong who's invisible, and then all in. That is absolutely insane in terms of ways into the backline. So let's see if way Ming, that duo which we have known to be so successful in the past, can get onto that backline, maybe snipe out Dokdam before he can start really using that railgun to its true power.
So what you're saying is we're soon going to see Shaco Rakan as a
We actually
combo
did see some
pro.
like Shaco LeBlanc and Shaco stuff like that before. It has happened before, randomly.
Well, we'll see. It's not going to happen today. We're going to be seeing that Wukong though. Wukong buffed a lot recently. And now coming into pro play, we've seen smatterings of it around the world. We'll see what it can do here for RNG in the hands of Wei. It's a champion Wei has played a lot over the years as well. Like, if you think across Wei's career, Wukong had a huge stint in the meta, so it's definitely a pick he is comfortable.
It really feels like he'll be with a good chance to go for stuff like that Black Cleaver and just see if he can shred down this front line, very importantly so. If RNG cannot reach the back line, they have to go through the front line, and the Wukong and the Varus might be able to do that. It will be a difficult front attack, though. I really feel like as well, the Xin Sao level 3 versus the Wukong's weaker earlier levels could be a huge point of pain for RNG. So Milky Way, see if we can open things up early.
We're just still going. We're up to our fourth Gyro.
You
I have to say,
so
the RNG Gyros, they were drilled. They were on point. It was like full-on military level chanting there. That was beautiful to hear.
So often as well, we've seen a lot of the first games of the day not have, you know, the vocal cords warmed up as so far. So I've had a lot of fun recently because I went over to the LEC studio and I just thought I'd just throw in a random Gyro for different LPL teams each time I'm in the studio. So I've been having some fun with that one. I've been learning from the LPL crowds and how they just throw out random names apparently at the start of the day.
Have you had any responses of people engaged?
Yes, weirdly so I have.
Dokdam forced a flash. Bit of damage coming back and forth here. Life trying to trade it back. It's a ghost for a flash. Definitely positive for RNG. Anyway, your Gyos, Nomura.
Yeah, I ran into a JDG fan over in Berlin. That was a fun time. Had a good chat with them. Turns like when you have LPL kind of showing up across the world as well, a lot of the fans really start to flock to the games too. And you know, I'm really excited to see what happens with Worlds later this year as well as it comes back to Europe and seeing if, of course, if either of these teams could make their RNG, they'd have to have a huge recovery. FPX, you know, they're thinking a little far off. They've got to wait for a lot until then. But really would like to see this team again just evolve beyond even their current state.
Yeah, I feel like for FPX, the conversation for me is like, how does this team look at playoffs? Because we've seen plenty of years where a team has one individual star or one player that's like I think OG is a good example of having players like Shanji and Cream over the last few years where, especially that first split of that roster where they made it into playoffs and then immediately just got hardcore banned out, and that was kind of the end of the story. I don't feel like FPX is in that category because I feel like Milky Way is quite a flexible player, and FPX have shown that the rest of the team is starting to step up. I do worry, though, when it comes to the later stage of playoffs, when it comes to best of 5, teams could figure them out. So we need to see different styles from FPX, and I do feel like to some extent we're seeing that today with this Senna Ornn bot lane. It's not necessarily the kind of bot lane that they've been running this year.
I mean, Dokdam's had a huge champion pool in general, but it has meant that we haven't seen much focus from the bot lane, and it does mean that, yeah, we're sometimes wondering actually what is your specialty and what do you do best on. Of course, that's a pretty decent trade there as well, getting through for that bot side. I think Life, as you rightfully called out earlier in the day as well, he's been such a big part of how FPX can play their games too, because he can play stuff like the Rumble support and the Ornn. It's not like the Renata, it's not like the Nautilus, which can change games in their own way. He's kind of unique in his support impact. And Shallow, who is top side. It's heavy trades. Renekton, this champion has just come up overnight, it has felt, in the LPL. It kind of went from being, oh, we'll blind pick it sometime later into the draft too. Okay, by the way, this is B1 worthy now.
Here on Renekton. It's the LPL Classic as Dokdam in big trouble. Ignited and taken down. Easiest first blood RNG I've had all year.
And this is with FPX getting good tracking on the enemy jungle too. They had a ward on enemy Raptors, so they saw when the pathing that way would have, and it's a very, very easy kill. Dokdam, of course, had no flash from burning it earlier into the game. As soon as they start trying to push that wave in, easy first blood going over As you say, it is the on-hit Varus, and this Varus needs to do a lot of work to get through the Ornn, the Renekton, and the Xin Zhao as well, potentially too, once that Crescent Guard isn't in the equation. So some early gold toward this bot lane, and LWX, that's important for them.
Certainly is, and great from RNG to be tracking those summoners, punishing that. Like, one of the biggest issues I've had with RNG this year is coordinated gameplay, or lack thereof, I suppose. Feels like that is, you know, it's not the hardest thing to do, but it's good that they are doing it, because I'm going to be honest, there's a lot of things that aren't that hard to do that I wish RNG would have done across the course of this year. So good to see that start. And I feel like it's important to get yourself a lead against a team like FPX, because when they get ahead, they really do like to run away with things.
And, one of the problems I did kind of think was going to happen in this early game is that you have, you know, the Karma in the mid lane. It feels like Ahri isn't answered by much in the meta. And honestly, the Karma doesn't necessarily answer it either. But you've got champions like Annie, Karma, and Neeko, which can hold down the Ahri early. So despite the fact that Tanyuan is on a playmaker, it does feel like, you know, he's got that early CS lead. He has been shoving in that mid lane. RNG, they would have kind of been playing without Tanyuan being able to just roam out onto the map. And we'll see if that'll be impactful actually when it comes to the level 6 mark, because you've got a lot of playmaking tools from FPX that's still available.
W comes out from Light, gets a bit of damage onto Ming. As the heals finally come through from Dogdom, there's a root coming through as well, but I don't think this is a winnable trade over. Like, on Senna, it's very good in terms of like playing weak side, so Life can farm and Dogdom can roam. It's not that great in the 2v2, let's be honest.
Well, the thing is, I think it's specifically not good in the 2v2 versus on-hit Varus, who just shreds tanks. Is why I don't really like Senna into the Varus, and I feel like FPX, they probably picked this up because, well, you know, Dogdom and Life, they like to play their specialty champions, they like to, you know, show their champion pool, but also because LWX and Ming haven't been good as a duo on the whole in the LPL. They've suffered an awful lot, so they were thinking, maybe we can just get away with it. As we've seen from the first couple of trades, not quite been as easy as that. It does mean that RNG have now first blood in bot lane, and they have first dragon as well, despite the fact that they're against the Xin Zhao, who normally runs the early game.
Yeah, that bot lane prio, the fact that Dogdom, his flash just coming up now.
Good knockup.
Up onto LWX, but it's traded back onto Dogdom there by Ming. Ming should be able to dash out. Life almost goes down there. LWX, great damage. As Wei can now move into the play. Milky Way will be focused down here, but flashes to safety himself. Wei follows it. The Crescent Guard keeps Milky Way alive, but now Wei doesn't quite have the damage.
Ignites!
Oh, the W for the Ignite! It's enough! And Ming takes down Milky Way.
Oh, Ming's cooking in the bot lane. Uses that Ignite to char grill a second kill for RNG, and we were saying, you know, hey, Senna, not necessarily great. Into the Varus, the lane pairings just kind of end up being just meat shields, really, while the Varus ends up doing so much damage. Wei gets down there as well. And suddenly FPX behind in bot lane, behind in jungle now too, because Wei has 2 assists. RNG, this is a much better start than I had envisaged for them. It starts with a great knockup from Life. This should have been a bit of an awkward moment, particularly because of the W landing, the W route as like Ming flies back towards his teammate. But after that point, you just see the turnaround damage that Varus gets to get out. It feels like FPX massively underestimate the damage differential here.
I do feel like this was quite a disrespectful play from FPX. They're obviously trying to get like a fast pick, but really underestimating how much RNG are bringing to the table. The fact that you've already got the first blood there for LWX, he does a lot of damage just with boots. And the fact that we know Wei is on Drake. We know Wei is like 2 seconds away from the lane. Kind of surprised to see FPX really committing into that play. So it does lead to a bit more of a goal lead for RNG. Xiaolao getting kind of low in this one. Q3 is there, All Out is there, and forces the dominance. Xiaolao does survive, but Breathe putting on the pressure now.
Yeah, I mean, that was like half a second off of actually getting the full kill. Dominance was very, very close to being still on cooldown, as that last tick of damage could have come through. Breathe, though, showing what he can do in this top lane. It's a hard matchup. The K'Sante does often fall behind the Renekton. Xiaolao lucky to get away with that one, but he does just about do it.
Certainly does, and he'll be here to farm the wave as well. Both top laners reset, neither with TP, so it's going to be a neutral state once again. Slight CS lead there for Xiaolao, but that's all for the time being, and Flash and Ghost still up. So let's talk junglers once again. They're in the bottom side of the map right now. First 3 grubs went the way of FPX, first Drake went the way of RNG. The next grubs are spawning onto the map in 30 seconds time. With junglers on the bottom side, I don't think they're looking that way anytime soon.
And another thing which we really have to pay attention to as well now is the fact that FX haven't got great eyes onto Wei just yet. They're going to get that right now with Karma starting to roam out. This is important. Care has been winning the early laning phase. You expect that from Karma. Is that going to lead to a winning fight, though?
We might just have a scrap here. Life is level 6 on the Ornn, and the horn sounds. Railgun across the team. Knockups are good as well, but Milky Way is down once again. Knockup is there on the way. Maybe they could trade. Jungle is here, and Life flashes for his life. Gets a heal out from the center of the Charm Lands, and Ming chases onto Doctum as well. Tang Yuan gets the reset, and it's a double for LWX.
What is happening with FPX's decision-making? They're going into Hell's Mouth. And the huge amount of damage that can come out from a Wukong who's just double cycloning across the team. And this Xin Zhao is not safe versus the Wukong, who has got this point of power alongside the rest of it. They invade into the enemy jungle. This should have just been a warding mission. You should not be going into this with the full intent to fight. Milky Way goes down very, very easily for the second time in this game. It is a massive overestimation of their own tankiness and a massive underestimation of what particularly this Wukong can do with that ultimate mark.
I feel like part of the issue there is Milky Way, like, very confidently going in with the Crescent Guard, which usually is very, very powerful in these kind of skirmishes, but, like, Wukong does a lot of damage in melee range. Ahri is more than happy to be inside that Crescent Guard. You've got Ming diving in as well. Like, you're really not blocking that much damage with the ult at this point in the game. I think Milky Way perhaps overestimating his tankiness, or maybe overestimating the damage his team could bring. I'm not sure, but either way. Ultimately, FPX are the ones starting these fights, and it's not working out for them.
I swear, if RNG, after missing playoffs for one of those very rare occasions, comes back at the end of the split and somehow gets a blue shell upset victory versus one of the top teams in the league, it would be, look, I'd say I'd be annoyed, but also I'd be so fascinated once again, because it's such an LPL thing to happen. RNG, I'll potentially have to see if the top laner can survive. Milky Way Doctam on their own.
Whether they're winning at the time or not, one thing you can say about FPX is they do not slow down. Now a dive on the top side, but Breathe keeps himself safe, uses that all out, uses the ghost, but will be forced away. And with 6 grubs here, it's going to be a lot of tower damage.
Yeah, it is, and I think this is really important because FX did not want to play towards bot side. Look how many red wards there are on the bot side of the map. This is why FX left this side, but it means that Life is probably going to die in a turret. No ult just yet.
The root lands from LWX.
Oh no!
Life, and Care TP'd in as well. Why? Why?
It's a care package. He just teleports in and he gives a free set of gold over Breathe. However, returning to favor on top side.
What are we doing? Why are we? Okay, well. Neither team really understanding the definition of the term weak side here. Trying to reinforce these towers, both losing their solo laners for it. But in the meantime, it's 7-2 on the scoreboard as FPX look for a tier 2 in the top side with 6 grubs, a center connected. I think they might just get it.
And the thing is, you know, tower plates make towers tankier. Inner turrets don't have that. So even though the fact that they would have been slower to push it out of turret, they end up getting both an outer and an inner one, full 5 plates topside, and that's going to be a lot of gold over to the center, who can potentially get up to maybe a first item after this back now.
I've just realized LWX is 5-0-2 right now, and yet FPX is still somehow 500 gold up. Let's take another look. Wukong was spotted. You know this play is going down, right?
This is exactly why FPX did not want to play on the bot side of the map, and sadly don't have the Ornn ult to just clear out the way from range. The center ult is late, Care teleports late, and everything's a real mess. It's not the best look for FPX, who are a team who I've consistently praised for having a good understanding of macro. This is sloppy.
Really awkward early game so far. Able to answer in that top side. You know, the fact that gold is even is honestly mind-blowing to me with how much gold is sitting in LWX's pocket. But such is League of Legends these days, with the way that tower plates interact, with the way that this side lane tier 2s increased in gold, obviously. That's kind of a while ago that change came through, but still feels like a change in my heart. But yeah, ultimately, gold basically even. And that's really good for RNG, because what we talked about before, RA versus FPX, it was the kind of 5v5s at more of an even game state. That was where FPX were challenged.
And now you're looking at, Milky Way and a difficult game for him to have as much impact, especially without an early lead. LWX they take big damage. Needs to be careful. It's one item Karma. If they manage to kind of thread the needle onto LWX, a lot of the tank killing potential will go down. So FPX, while we can potentially put a question mark on those team fights, it really does feel like RNG, they might have a hard time getting this 5-0 Varus into a good spot. Has to avoid Ornal, has to avoid Mantra Qs, has to avoid Shalaho getting onto him as well. That's why RNG, they're not really that keen to go into Fog of War. They don't want to just leave their Varus out to dry. It'll be a very bad moment for them.
Herald taken as well. So the big advantage right now for RNG is the 2 Drakes. Chem Soul, not ideal for them, but still a soul regardless. And that Varus brings them a lot of power in that regard as the tier 1 goes down as well. However, the Herald just being taken by FPX, if they save that until the Drake is spawning, does give them an opportunity to force priority in the mid lane and perhaps give them an avenue to contest that 3rd Drake.
Yeah, I think FPX, they're getting to the point where their items are starting to come online now. I think particularly the Eclipse on the Renekton, really nasty for his burst combo as well, especially as soon as he gets towards 2nd item. I think 2 items is where FPX start to really eclipse a lot of what RNG wants to do in terms of frontline to frontline. I think when you have Sterak's and Renekton, it really helps you with tenacity versus the pick combo of RNG. And also, we'll see what can happen with this engage in mid lane. Good cleanse away.
It's a great flash from Ming over the W. Unfortunately, it didn't lead to anything. But hey, how clean would that be?
Yeah,
Got
wow.
a kill off of the back of that. Like, mechanically, it looked really nice. Just didn't lead to anything, unfortunately.
Yeah, charging into this mid lane. We're going to get a counter engage off the bounce. No, 6 Grub's going to kill the mid turret straight up. Wow.
Oh, wait, I wasn't sure if he was going to be in trouble there, but does get away with his clone. But yeah, tower taken. They're so fast at destroying these objectives. It's insane. Doctor scaling up as well. Yeah, it's got to be cautious. That ward is going to ruin everything. There we go. RNG spotted. Drake up in a minute and a half.
We'll see whether FPX are looking for some resets. Life might be forced to flash. He's cancelled out of his dash.
Does flash away to safety, gets into the Shroud. I've not been too impressed by Life Zorn so far, honestly. The dive at the bot side, not using his W in the wave, and then a bit late to get it on the Barasol in that play. Now getting charmed in River. I don't know, maybe his W was on cooldown, I'm not sure. Smite comes through from Milky Way, grabs his red buff, spots the clone as well, dashes on in for more. The route onto Way is there. I don't know if they can finish the kill. Milky Way's desperate to do it.
Snipe!
Live snipes him with the Ornhorn, and Milky Way gets onto the scoreboard a little bit here. FPX finally finding themselves a fight. Suddenly, out of nowhere, they grab themselves 3.
This was what RNG was supposed to be showing us what they can do at a 5v5. What can they do with this early lead? And it does end up just kind of evaporating. Well, I mean, I say early lead. You know, they have the great Varus in the advantage, right? Even if the overall gold lead wasn't there for them. But FPX massively punish RNG for jumping too far into the enemy jungle. Way on this Wukong has largely been impervious in this early game. Been getting the better side of the trades against Milky Way. But he walks straight into Dr. Milky Way, and the rest of the team collapsed so quickly. FPX finally getting into the right place at the right time.
Life could be in trouble here. This time he buffers the CC, and it means Ming can't finish off the dive here. That was a TP in from Tangyuan as well, from Breathe as well. They are desperate for this 3rd Drake. RNG move into the river.
I think they're going to get it. I don't think you can really take the fights without the big ultimates from FPX. No Crescent Guard, no Pull the Forge God. None of that no center ultimate either. So the FPX missing some key crucial tools to teamfight with. RNG walk away with soul points. So as you said earlier, you know, it's not the best soul, but still the fact that they can force a soul early and maybe even go towards an early Elder or something like that, it gives the potential for RNG to just kind of flip around objectives when FPX maybe then have to split their focus between their big ultimates and then the objective.
Oh, Root actually lands onto Ming. Knockup could be available, but I don't know if you really want to commit into that one for Life. And the fact that FPX managing to find themselves that fight off the back of RNG, who are starting yet another one. Spirish used by Tangyuan. They're looking for Life. The W denies a little bit, but not enough. And LWX grabs his 6th kill of the game.
We were talking about the Rakan Wukong combo just being really obnoxious in terms of how quickly it can reach you from very long range. See that there. Life once again not really in the best position. Goes down very easily. And the fact that he's died so much now and so much gold has gone over to LWX means that he's never really going to be a super tank in this game now. You've got to feel with the amount of gold going over to the tank killers on RNG. Right here, I mean, Wei just pops out of a bush, goes full invis mode. You got an Ahri dashing forward as well. Like, it is very hard to judge your safe distance, but even then, it's just really awkward for life there, sadly for him.
Tough one for life. Such is the life of an Ornn when you're not actually going for the fight. It's not like Ornn is a great champion for escaping plays. Aside from really the WCC buffer, that's pretty much all he's bringing in that regard. That said though, I think the biggest thing we can take away from that play for RNG is the sheer range with which they can engage a fight. I feel like that started in bot side river and then went all the way to halfway to Baron buff essentially in the top river and managed to find that engage. Tangyun using all 3 Spirit Rush charges to be a part of the play there. The kind of triple Vestayan. Is Wukong a Vestayan? I don't know. Maybe he's just a monkey.
I think he is. You know, they've changed Wukong, because Wukong was kind of before the Vestayan kind of thing came around, because he was what? Was he 2010, 2011 champion? He was around that kind of year, right? He was around for a little while. I know that they changed, so I think that Amumu used to be a Yordle, isn't now. I'm pretty sure that Fizz wasn't a Vestayan. I don't know whether he's
not a
now.
Yordle?
I think he isn't anymore. I think they changed that lore, yeah.
What?
Yeah, a lot of this
He's
does
so
change.
obviously a Yordle.
But do not question the lore gods. It shall happen in the way it was always intended to be.
Question whoever I doubt. Well, please, I'm not religious. Yeah, I mean, Amumu's definitely a Yordle. I'll leave it at that. Look at him. He looks like a Yordle. He sounds like a Yordle. He is a Yordle.
So it's obviously a duck, yeah.
Yeah. Ducks are cheese, by the way. I don't know if you knew that. There's a
I
YouTube
didn't know
video,
that.
very educational, worth watching. Speaking of educational, FPX want to educate Breathe on positioning, but Breathe is, turns out he's the teacher after all. Ming has to dash away to safety. Health bar's still pretty healthy aside from Doctem, and Breathe just 1v1s him. The teacher has brought class into session, and in the meantime, the other top laner goes down. It's a disaster for FPX, and LWX survives on the back line. Milky Way versus the world, and the world is just too heavy this time around. Care flashes to safety, but he just doesn't have the damage to do anything. The Q comes on through. That was so close to disaster.
It is kind of disaster all the same. It's going to be the Baron going over to RNG. It's a bit of a K'Sante moment. It's a bit of a Breathe moment. It's a bit of RNG showing up when it doesn't matter to them. This matters to FPX. They still have seeding to fight for. They would really be expected to walk away with this one, but RNG are comprehensively putting them to the sword. This should go down with the on-hit Varus burning it down, but there are teleports. How many can they get when they retreat?
Wei gets the flash over the wall. Breathe is going to go down. LWX is going to go down. This maybe is it for FPX, in fact. 2 kills, both of them onto Xiaolahu. They can't find anything more, but Drake is spawning in 39 seconds. That should be long enough dead timers to grab a Drake.
Oh, with the teleport from Breathe, that means that he could turn up to a play at some point. They might be able to contest FPX if they take a little while to set up towards the objective. This just starts off again with really, honestly, Dogdown not being in a great position for these teamfights. Breathe managed to get straight on top of the AD carry, and if K'Sante is on top of your AD carry, that tends to be a lost team fight. And at the other side of it, I really think that Xiaolahu does a good job of turning things around at the back of this and getting good damage onto LWX. And Ming as well, but Life can't quite finish that. Ming, as I speak of it, gonna die!
That is not the time to get caught out, Ming. A bit disrespectful, you know Drake's coming up. The odds of FPX being in the area are pretty high. Obviously, we didn't see the setup to that pick, but that's Drake guaranteed now for FPX. They deny Soul once more, and look at the Baron power play at the top right. Negative 900 gold.
It's been really hard to actually sit back and talk about the setup for the next play. It has been so scrappy and back and forth, and you can see that's why a lot of these fights are starting out of nowhere. A lot of people just getting caught out randomly across the map. Ming died basically putting down Vision, which was meant to be part of that setup. FPX now, by killing the support, is one of the unseen things that you often see about... well, when the unseen things, not that you see, because it's unseen, but basically when a support dies, you don't get that same vision control later into the game for the next minute or two. Maybe that'll stop RNG being able to find the angles which they've been finding so far this game.
How funny would it it be if RNG win this game?
It would be hilarious, and also it would make me feel kind of like upset in some way too, because I actually do want FPX to be one of the top teams. Losing games in this kind of fashion, it's not a good look for them.
It's definitely not. And I feel like this, to some extent, is FPX fashioning their own defeat here. A lot of the scaling aspects in this composition for a team that, realistically, a lot of their wins have come from the early game, but I kind of like the idea that they're changing things up. Playoffs is on the way. They need to be a flexible team. They need to be able to play multiple styles. Perhaps this is a first inkling of that. Trying things out against a team so far low in the standings that you feel like you should be able to get the easy wins. Maybe the draft changes for game number 2 after how this first one's going down.
Yeah, and maybe the play changes a little bit too, because I think a lot of this game ended up being much more difficult because of the bot side 3v3s, which just went so terribly wrong for them.
The one thing I will say, actually, I don't mind if the play stays the same, just with a composition that can play like that.
That's true, yes.
Honest. I feel like they still just played like they have a really aggressive early composition.
I mean, the Xin Zhao, that's the easy part of that, but really, honestly, just going into the Varus and the Rakan very early on means that your 3v3 is going to get contested, and it was contested. It put behind then Dokdam and Life, who, as we said, they've been having a good back half of the split. It felt like Dokdam, yes, he's had some bad moments. I feel like this game is kind of sadly one of them again, but we haven't necessarily been seeing that again so recently. So maybe we change up the bot lane picks for the next game from FPX if this is again the style that they want to keep playing, bot side 3v3.
Yeah. I just want to quickly talk about support one for a split second if I have time. Wait, toying with the idea of going
I don't know, do you? We'll see. This game's been all over the place.
Yeah, it really has. Top lane is now 1v1ing as well. I don't think this will turn into a proper...
Go, support on, go!
Look. There are no Ornn items on the entire team just yet, and that is the fact that we have a support Ornn in the game, right? While you do get more XP, because you somewhat solo lane as the center roams around, you don't necessarily get as far ahead. Like when you look at Life versus Breathe, for example, 2 levels behind, it takes a lot longer. You'd expect with an Ornn on the team to have a couple of Ornn items by 26 minutes, but because it's in that support role, it does delay that kind of late game value that you get out of Ornn's passive.
You can see that actually, there is some XP given over because effectively he's getting the same amount of XP as an AD carry would in this composition, but he's not at the level 15, the level 16 mark you can see from Tanyuan, Breed, Care, Shallow as well. So we're going to have to wait a little longer for that. Of course, he's picked up his own Ornn item now, that Locket upgraded. I'm sorry, I can't remember the Masterwork names of all of them. I remember a couple. Remember that Kraken Slayer goes into Wormfall and Sacrifice, and that is badass. I love that. I can't remember. Wait, is there Syzygy still in the game for Eclipse? Is that still a thing? Will we get that for Renekton?
I'm going to say maybe. I'm going to leave it at that. Obsidian Cleaver, anyone? I don't know. To be honest, it's not something I've ever really worried about. I feel like I have to remember so many ability names. I have to remember all of the normal item names. Am I that worried? Like, we all know that it's an Ornn upgrade on the item. Does it need a name? I'm not too worried about it.
Sometimes it can be fun. Less fun is Life taking all of his high HP. He's just going to die for free.
Oh, this is a disaster for the side of FPX. They've just walked into their own demise. Life still surviving. Milky Way as well. Maybe they can turn this one around. Care still going too. Shallow who gets into the mix, but it's just not tanky enough. Or maybe he is with those shields coming through. Breathe finds the all out and cleans things up. Breathe, he's had a pretty decent split. He's been the highlight for RNG, and he remains so today.
Breathe has been such a thorn in the side of FPX's team fights. He's been onto the carries every single time. And the fact that we have the Wukong Rakan so consistently finding threat onto FunPlus Phoenix, they have not been able to stand and fight. Their front line has been so separated away from their backline, and the backline is just not safe. Look at how Wei gets into this fight. The vision control has actually been immaculate from RNG for most of this game. Ming goes in on a great timing as well. While that happens, the flash in from Wei completes the combo. 2 great backline dives coming through from jungle and support. Yes, the Wukong goes down, but the damage is done. The Senna's not there. The damage is not there to kill the front line beyond this point. RNG are running over the team fights.
And I really don't know if that was a group call for Xiaolahu to go in at the end as well. Like, a Xiaolahu commits to a 3v4 where he could run away, perhaps overestimating how much tankiness this Karma is going to offer with those shields. And it was clear that Milky Way was not keen to go in as well. Bit of miscommunication from the side of FPX. And we see them once again pushed, once again behind. And in these late game fights, now against the Chemtech Soul as well, it does feel like RNG have the advantage for themselves and potentially could find a win. Ming, with the idea of going in. Remember that Rakan engage followed up by a Wukong is devastating.
And also Tanyuan following up with a Magi's with the Death Cap as well. So strong. Flashed away from the Varus.
That's Doctum's flash. That's huge. That's such a big cooldown. Care doesn't have a flash either.
Oh, the damage.
Just annihilate the top laner. Good ult comes out from life. Good combo to CC up LWX, but nobody can follow up whatsoever. Milky Way goes down on the backside. Doctum's still going. Maybe life can tank for the carries, but I don't think so. Double for LWX and RNG. I guess Royal Neva gave up after all.
There are no stars in this night sky. The Milky Way is sadly missing from this first occasion between these two teams. RNG, very clean play around forcing FPX into positions where they don't have vision to contest the objectives and then putting them over the fire and burning them down. I really love how RNG had played around this full-on dive pile-in composition. 25 stacked Medjais from Tanyuan. When you get a death cap, it means that single item gives you 203 AP as a single item, and that's the stats which RNG are playing with here. Look how much damage comes at the start of this. This is meant to be your somewhat tanky frontliner. That is just not the case. Tanyuan LWX slaughter Shallow while he stands, and looking at Milky Way on the other side, we called this out before, you know, in other games, yes, the Xin Zhao can be a bit of a frontliner, just not in this one. It's so hard for him to stand and fight.
It feels like RNG have got a really smart draft here. And FPX, honestly, not playing with very much respect. The way that they're positioning on the map there, like the fact that they get engaged on, like, surely you know you're not going to win a fight at that point in the game, just in a fair situation. But still standing in that mid lane, get engaged on. It was a great charm by Tanyuan, great use of the vision denial in the top portion of the jungle there. Finds himself a target, Shallow, who has to get away. It feels like this game is almost impossible for Shallow to succeed in these fights, right? He has to go in to be useful as Renekton, but there's so little follow-up from the rest of the team. There's so little damage coming out. This is something we mentioned in the draft as well, is this is fairly low damage composition from FPX.
And also on the other side of it too, Jak'Sho Terminus, when you get to this kind of build for the Varus, how do you get through even the Varus? The Varus is a half tank now at this point, by the way. He's going to keep healing through you as well. Even if you reach those choice targets, there's a Banshee, there's an assassination!
Oh, Tanyuan! Where has that been? All split long. This is more like it, RNG. Goes in for another charm, doesn't quite find the bonus target, but it doesn't matter. He's done his work. 3-0-13 on the Ahri, and this will be a triple in him.
I dare you to say Ahri's not an assassin. She's back, and she has damage. RNG are back, and they have damage.
Doctum getting caught once again. A tough game for him on the Senna. The Baroned Up Cannons will end this, and RNG want one last fight before the Nexus falls. Shallow who falls. Life will fall as well. And RNG, this has been clean. Another double for Breathe, who's looked fantastic in this game. LWX finishing on double digits there. 10, 1, and 6 for the AD carry of RNG.
Honestly, I'm shell-shocked. This is not the game one you expect between what is a top 4 team currently and the LPL and a team down in the bottom 3. This is not the kind of gameplay you'd expect coming out of this series. And RNG, where has this been? Whole split. Vision control, fantastic. Composition was great. Early 3v3s, fantastic. Teamfight engages later on, fantastic. They out-team fought, they out-macroed. They did everything better than they had done the entirety of the split. Why has this only come just now?
I mean, LWX absolutely smurfed this game. Fantastic game from him, the player I think that has been maybe the most criticized out of this entire RNG roster. Fantastic game on the Varus. We're going to go into a break and then potentially go into one of the biggest upsets of the split.
There's always one.
FPX, they've come back before. Let's find out after.